So, thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you're here. Why not relax and listen to a story or two? It's our vagabond story from our first RV renovation on to getting legal and finally getting to travel at least a little bit. Over the last few videos, I've been describing our first renovation. Starting at the back of the Wheelie House, we began working with the bathroom. That room is so small that it was a great relief to get that part finished. Next was the bedroom right next to the bathroom. There's a little bit more room in there, and that's where I decided to remove the wallpaper. Well, it turns out that the wallpaper is bonded to the plywood better than the plies of the plywood. So I had to give that idea up. So finally we moved here toward the center area of the coach, and we took out the old booth system and reoriented a table and couch long ways, which we think is a little bit nicer. And on the right side of the coach is the kitchen. We put in the new countertop and so forth. That came out pretty well in the end. And so now we're kind of moving further front in the Wheelie House. Right next to the kitchen is the door, the outside door for the coach. And past that is a little space where the captain's chair used to sit. When we were doing demolition work, we got rid of that captain's chair. It was small and, for me at least, uncomfortable. So it's not what we wanted, and it's not what we kept. So what do we want? Well, it would be nice to have a place to keep shoes. Maybe a little additional heat. This is, after all, Michigan we're in. And of course, everyone needs a junk drawer. So I started with the additional heating. After a good amount of looking up things on the web, I finally decided that a catalytic heater would be great. As I understand it, this type of heater doesn't require electrical power and cannot make carbon dioxide when it's heating. Apparently, the catalytic heater doesn't get hot enough to get carbon monoxide made in the flame, because there is no flame. But a catalytic heater requires something called a drip leg. I had no idea what a drip leg is. I'd never heard the term before. So I didn't have any idea what I was doing. After a little bit of research, I found out that a drip leg is there to keep oils that might be in the propane system from getting into the catalyst in the catalytic heater. Apparently, the catalyst will get trashed if it gets oil on it. So why in the world should there be oil in the propane tank? Well, it seems like propane vendors, tend to put in sometimes low viscosity oil in their systems to keep the mechanics working, keep the valves valving and such. Such a thing, I guess, is called wet propane. This often happens in colder weather. I don't know, like Michigan, for example. So the secret sauce to take the wet propane that you might get from a vendor and turn it into dry propane that would be useful in the catalytic heater is something called a drip leg. All this is a vertical length of pipe where the oil in the mix falls down while the gas flows up. Well, that sounds pretty straightforward. Seems like I could make something like that, right? So off I went to the hardware store, bought a bunch of black pipe and some brass fittings and a couple of pipe wrenches and screwed everything together. Then I got to wondering, I wonder if this thing is really gas proof. I wonder if it'll leak. So I've ginned up a way to pressurize this whole drip leg and the manifold that goes with it, to pressure it up and put it in a tank of water. And sure enough, bubbles everywhere. So back off to the big box store, where I found a clerk, an older guy who had retired and was doing this for fun, to tell me how I should put things together and what I should buy. So I followed his directions. I bought what he said I should bought, and I put it together the way he said I should put it together. And how about that? It all worked just like he said it would. I put the manifold and the drip leg system into a vat of water, pressurized it up, and left it for, I don't know, a couple of days. It worked just fine, no bubbles, no leaks. Underneath the Wheelie House, at the lower level is the cab. And then you step up into the coach. Well, that step up area underneath looks like a great place to put this manifold propane or drip leg propane system in. And so I did. It wasn't as easy as it looked, sadly, but I did get it all in there finally. And I figured it would work out pretty well. It's kind of shielded from splatter from tires and stuff like that, and it does seem to behave itself pretty well. Then I built a cabinet to hold this heater. And of course, that was also going to have some cubbies for shoes and a couple of shelves for miscellaneous stuff. I just went ahead and used big box store 1/2-inch plywood. I just pegged it together. I didn't really care much about the imperfections in the wood because I was going to paint it. So I just, spackled everything up, sanded lots, and then painted and painted. The catalytic heater comes with a bezel, kind of in a kit, so you can mount it into your opening, in my case, my cabinet opening, and that all kind of came out pretty well. One thing you have to do, of course, is you have to get the propane from down below, underneath the coach, up into where the actual heater is. So I had to cut a hole in the floor. But I was pretty careful about that and sealed it up quite carefully. I understand there's some kinds of wasps or something that love to hang out around propane smells and make their nests. Certainly didn't want that happening, let alone mice and other such getting inside the coach. But that all kind of came together, and so I called it good. One more thing done. Next, of course, was to put in the junk drawer. Gotta have one. So I just made it out of the same half-inch plywood, pegged it together, and got the drawer slides. You pull out the drawer, and on the end of the drawer slides, the sort of the inside end, I cut off a little bit of the metal so that the rollers would fall down when the drawer was closed, so that when we go rumbling down the road, this drawer will open and spill its contents everywhere. This is a really old idea. I think it's from the 60s maybe, but it works fine. So I went ahead and used it. So there you have it. One more task finished. Above this cabinet is a cubby hole where the TV used to be. Now this is an old coach, and so it had an old-timey TV, the CRTs with a great big back end. Not a nice flat screen one or anything. Since Wendy and I have kind of gotten tired of watching TV, I just decided to repurpose that TV nook into another storage area. In doing that, I had to take apart the control center. That's where the slide out for the slide here is, and the generator is in there and some other things. So as I took that out, a whole bunch of cheesy crackers fell out everywhere. Apparently, there had been some very industrious mouse putting, I don't know, at least one entire pack of cheesy crackers inside that area. It took me a good while to clean that up and get all the wires fixed correctly. But it was all done. The shelf was in place, and that was another task finished. Between the kitchen and this new cabinet that I put in is where the coach door is. Above the coach door is a whole collection of wires that were just sort of dangling down. I didn't know what to do about that. Apparently, long ago, there had been a piece of paneling of some kind that had been tacked up there. I don't think it was put up very well, and it didn't last very long, and having festooned wires around is fun, but not quite what we wanted. So I finally found some material called PVC foam. So PVC foam comes as a little board. It's about, I guess, 1/8 of an inch thick or so. So I bought a piece of it. And I had a workmate that I was using as part of putting together this renovation. So I used this workmate as a brake, and I carefully bent that foam. And that seemed to work out pretty well. Put a bunch of caulk on it to hold it in place. I don't know how many other people use caulk as a method of gluing things together. That works. And I kind of tacked it up with some tack nails to hold it while the glue set, and it seems to have worked out just fine. Of course, I painted it with that insanely expensive primer, and then painted it up the white color that we're using for the rest of the ceiling. Another task done. Looking on the left side of the front area by the cab, I thought, well, it would be nice to put in some shelves there, so when one wanted to go into the over cab area, just climb up the steps. So I built a couple of boxes with lids on them, so there'd be a little storage, and put them in place. That is something that I don't think we've ever used for anything. Not even sure why I made them anymore. But at least they're there, and they don't rattle or anything, so I guess it's okay. At this point, most all of the furniture in the coach was done, was finished and put in place. Now it's time to look at that raw plywood floor and fix that up. But that's another story.